Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. And today is a beautiful November the 2nd, 2016. And Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. iHeartMedia is the #1 media company in the United States. And Charlton and Big C Sports has been rated the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and his good old boys down south. So no hanging chats on that, Big C. I also want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America. So thank you for following Charlton and Big C Sports, and also our good old boys from across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course the great country of Canada. I love the Canadian national anthem, Big C, and also of course our good old boys from the United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, just tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports at Yes Charlton on Twitter, and you can also let us know your thoughts on our broadcast. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south? Are you guys still trying to succeed from the Union, Big C?
Charlton, we just succeed down here. Serious, you know, whatever we take the reins in life. We're not sitting here taking second fiddle to somebody telling something on television or how we should live life. We just enjoy it. You know, we're like Game 7 of the Big C World Series.
Exactly.
Let it all hang out tonight. Let it all hang out.
No, don't let it all hang out, Big C. Donald Trump's in the house, Big C. Be careful letting it all hang out. But Big C, you know, I'm so happy and I'm so excited about tonight's World Series. I do want to give you some little bit of praise. I'm coming to you outside the Golden One Center, downtown Sacramento. We saw the Kings get jobbed down south, but the good old boys in Florida, Big C. So we won't even talk about the Cousins falling out in the fourth period. I think he got most of his fouls there, Big C. But that's just part of what happens in the NBA. But I do want to say tonight we have this great Game 7 of the Big C World Series. That stands for Chicago and Cleveland for you good old boys. But you said we would get 7 games. We did get 7 games in the NBA Finals. You also said we get 7 games for that, Big C. Now, I just want to ask you, when are we going to get more diversity on TV? But we'll get into baseball before we talk about that, Big C. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, Charlton, we will get diversity. You know, it's going to come along. But, you know, it's almost like Boogie Cousins last night for Sacramento, the big center out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
You know, he had 6 fouls in the fourth period, y'all. The tied an NBA record.
Yeah.
He had no fouls going into the 6th period. He scored 30 points last night.
Yeah.
But he fouled out in the fourth period alone. So, you know, and some of the calls were egregious against him.
Oh, they were bad.
You know, we've seen a lot of that in officiating in all sports as of late, Charlton. But, you know, tonight's ultimate performance is in Game 7 of the World Series in Cleveland.
Yeah.
You got Kluber for Cleveland going and Hendricks for Chicago starting the game. But, you know, neither one of these guys will finish the game, Charlton. This is a game where when you talk about pitchers, everybody's available.
Everybody's available.
Everybody talked about Chapman and Madden's moves with Chapman, how they were shocked that Madden was using the way he did. Madden is the manager.
He knows what he's doing, I think.
He knows baseball as well as any of those analysts that are there calling the game and talking about the game on the sideline.
Yeah.
But he has his thumb on the pulse, Charlton. That's the difference. He knows his players. Chapman's wanting to play. Chapman's wanting to win a championship. And any athlete who has been a competitor will go out under any conditions to win a championship or help his team win a championship, Charlton. I go back to the great Willis Reed of the New York Knicks back in 1970 when he came out after having an injured knee. He didn't play but 4 minutes in the championship game against the Lakers, Charlton, but he was such an emotional lift for the Knicks to go on and win consecutive championships. But, you know, he was the captain. And he went out there and led by example, Charlton. Yes, this is an injury that I have, but I have months to recuperate. And that's what Joe Madden is looking at. And even Chapman's throwing 60 pitches in the last 2 games, more than he normally does. That's normally a month worth of work. But he also understands he's got 5 months off after this series is over, Charlton.
And speaking of this championship game in the Big C, 7th game of the World Series, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them you want the one that Charlton and Big C drives. Actually, Big C drives it. Just tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you, Big C. The Big C's the one with the mud and the catfish smell, Big C. I still don't understand how you can disrespect the American car company that makes Cadillac GM by putting catfish and mud in the back seats, Big C. What's going on with that, Big C?
Well, Charlton, that's the limited edition Big C event. edition of the Cadillac.
Yeah.
Cadillac, Catfish, Big C, we all run together.
Chicago, Cleveland, it's all good, Big C. And when we talk,
all under the C umbrella.
It's all under the C. The Big C Corporations, Big C Productions, Big C. But for you good old boys that are going up to the city of Cleveland, and you're going to see just a madhouse. This game tonight, it transcends sports. You know how we blend Hollywood and we blend sports together? I mean, this game, to me, for the good old boys of the Midwest, this is like religion in the South. Like, religion's second to football in the South, Big C. I think religion's going to be second to this baseball game tonight on Fox, and they should do a great job announcing this game. Doesn't matter who wins. I think America wins. I think baseball wins when we talk about just the environment of these two teams that have been starved for a championship, Big C. Not only will they get champagne after the game, I think they're going to have moonshine and catfish for the winning team, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you look at Major League Baseball where it is right now with these two great organizations that have been around forever, heritage organizations, not the young franchises that came in. I think the only thing that Cleveland missed the boat on this series, Charlton. If you go back into the mid-'90s or late '90s, there were two movies made called Major League, based on the
Charlie Sheen
Cleveland Indian franchise.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen was a pitcher called the Wild Thing.
Yeah.
And I think that the league and the organization would have did itself a great justice having Charlie Sheen throw out at least one opening pitch.
Well, he wanted to, He wanted to, but
they didn't. They felt, marketing-wise with his lifestyle, that it wasn't, fitting what they wanted as far as an image.
Yeah.
The image was already made in the movie Wild Thing, but, you gotta let America be America. Everybody doesn't always agree, but they paid homage to the Cleveland Indians in the movie Wild Thing, doing it twice. Wesley Snipes played in the movie.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes.
Johnson played in there also.
Yeah.
Heath Smith, who also played the president in the TV series 24.
Yeah, in 24.
And he's known for Allstate commercials. He's the voice of Allstate.
Yeah.
These individuals, I think, would have been a great opportunity for America and Fox to capitalize on American heritage and appreciation of fanfare from Hollywood and just the plain layman sportsman, Charlton.
Yeah, well, Big C, and that's the great thing that you just talked about, the great Hollywood scene, and how we love sports, and a lot of the times you look at Hollywood and you look at sports and how it all intertwines. There was a time when you talk about it intertwining, and America has come a long way. I don't care how much pain we have as a country dealing with our own differences, Big C. I like red wine, you like moonshine. I don't look down on you guys for it. I pay taxes, you and Donald Trump don't. I don't look that. I don't look down.
We can see what it is. You got red wine, they say anything there on you.
Yeah, so
that's what's with the worm.
Hey, I don't drink the worm, Big C, but speaking of worm behavior, I just want to get onto something. You did it again. And I know we talk about so many things because we call this Real Sports Talk on Charlton and Big C Sports, the number one sports show in the universe, and we're on iHeartRadio, the number one media company. But I will tell you, you've been talking about race and sports and society and how integration is great for our country and how diversity is one of the strengths that we have as a country. We know we have President Obama, and a lot of people say, well, that's good. That makes everything even. We know it doesn't make everything even, Big C. But I do want to just bring this up because I was looking at certain media companies all throughout the day, and there are these articles about race in Hollywood. We know the great Chris Rock did the thing with Hollywood and the Oscars and hashtag Black Lives Matter and all the exclusion in the world of television, Big C. And you have brought so many things to my mind that I thought you were just one of those good old boys from the South and complaining about things. But we talked about diversity ever since we launched Big C Sports and how we're calling for more diversity and more gender equality in broadcast. Would you believe USA Today, they did a study, a whole column to diversity in TV in the progress report. Big C, before we get into that, I just want to ask you, why is that on your mind? I think a lot of Americans slip it because we're just used to the Archie Bunker ways in the press box and Archie Bunker ways in the GM boxes, Big C. But you brought this up to my mind, and now mainstream's catching on. Why is diversity so important to you when it comes to advertising dollars, Big C?
Well, diversity should be the American way of life. People always are saying things have gotten better for Americans across the board. Well, they realistically haven't, Charlton. We have several rich black athletes, okay?
Yeah.
Dozens of them.
Yeah.
But those are just some athletes. We're not talking about mainstream corporate America where we don't fit we need as far as those faces delivering a product to America. I know NBC Sports NBC News has Lester Holt as its number one anchor. We have one anchor, but we've had all the other races prior to having Lester Holt and African American as the anchor on a network news show, Charlton. You normally have to go to a minority market to see African Americans in a broadcast role. But when we look at the intelligence and diversity of the culture, Charlton, it's there. You know, it's like when we look at the sports table. And we see the games that are broadcast by ESPN, ABC, CBS, and even NBC and Fox on Saturday. You're looking at the universities, Charlton, that have these predominant black programs. And I say predominant black programs, and I mean that by the number of African Americans on their roster, whether it be basketball or football, Charlton. When you look out on the court and you see it, you know, basketball has this one-and-done deals, and that's not diversity. That's exploitation of a kid for 1 year. Saying we won't allow you to go to the NBA, but we're going to make you go to this university.
They make them stay.
And earn them some money. No, they're going to make them earn a university some money for a year. You know, I look at the great running back Leonard Fournette down at LSU, who hasn't had an opportunity to enter the NFL draft. He suffered some injuries over the past 2 years. But by far and away, Charlton, he's the best running back in college football. But when you look at what he does for the University of LSU, okay, through his jersey sales, through the advertising campaign that runs behind him, that the university benefits off of him. And there's no diversity here. And when we look at these broadcasters, you and I talked about why does not these major networks broadcast the Ivy League? If it's just football, broadcast Ivy League. Why don't they broadcast all the Kansas games, all the Rice games? You know, teams are too lame. Why don't they broadcast those games? You talk about Fresno State being, I believe, 1-7, 1-8. Why aren't those games on television? And if it's not about the athlete and the dollar instead of exploitation, then you broadcast everyone. You give everyone an equal opportunity. But it's about exploitation. You're taking the top predominant African American programs in college sports and broadcasting them. You talked about the NCAA tournament last year, Charlton, in basketball. 4 teams, 4 black starting lineups, Charlton. 20 black players started in the NCAA tournament last year down in Houston. Had a great seat down there. Ate some great barbecue.
I think they run out of barbecue because of you, Big C.
but I didn't see the diversity of the reporters, Charlton, whether it was on the bench, you know, the head broadcast, or even the sideline reporters, Charlton. And so when we talk about diversity in everything, show me why African Americans should not get the opportunity. That's all we ask, and that's what I point out. When I look at the NFL under the Rooney Rule, and they say you have to interview black coaches. Okay, but when you interview a black coach, Charlton, you normally hired the white coach already. It's just a formality of paperwork. Well, we interviewed 2 of them, but they just didn't meet the qualifications. Tell me what the qualifications are before I walk into an interview, so I don't waste your or my time, Charlton, because realistically, that's where we are in America. America is a time-based corporation from top to bottom. It's about utilizing time properly. So if you know you're not going to hire a guy, why bring him in there under smoke screen saying, no, we interviewed the guy, we met the quota, but we weren't going to hire him. Be honest. You know, say he doesn't have a chance, and that's where African Americans' lives have been, Charlton, beyond just the sports arena. If you're playing, you're great and you love. But the thing about most of these sports, Charlton, and mainly football, because that's where the predominant number of athletes are, is that you don't see their face. So they don't become Madison Avenue recognizable. And even when you take players, Charlton, and put them in the broadcast booth, mainly it's the lovable guy that you put in the broadcast booth. He may not be the most articulate, may not be the most pronounced, but you put him in there because he has this household name. Where you will bypass guys who are very well spoken, Charlton, who can deliver a product, but they were not known. They were not 12-year veterans. They were not 15-year veterans. But you take that guy who was a 1 or 2 year veteran. Think about, Charlton, there are so many African-American college athletes that are journalists and communication majors that they cannot get a job. Why? In the field of what they study for in college, they cannot get a job. But you take an Anglo or an Asian, and I'm not being racist here, financial analyst, he's guaranteed a job when he comes out of college.
Well, Big C, that is so powerful, and I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? I'm telling you tonight, I feel like we already won. In fact, I'm gonna be bold like Donald Trump. We did win the lotto tonight. It's called the Powerball. It's $190 million. Big C won by Charlton and Big C Sports, the number one show in the universe.
Well, Charlton, I took your advice. I bought 2 tickets.
You bought
I wasn't gonna be chintzy like you. I wasn't gonna be chintzy like you going out buying one ticket.
Yeah.
Tickets I dropped $2 on 2 tickets. I quadrupled it up. You know, I 4 y'all belong to us.
Well, I tell you, it's an amazing thing. And what I love about, the world of sports, and we've been saying this all along, and I think it's starting to catch on. And sometimes you think you just speak from the heart. You wonder if people are paying attention. But when I see some major media outlets, and I'm saying for the future going forward, we do want a world of inclusion. People of color, we want women, we want every ethnic group represented. And this is why the Good Old Boy Network from the 1940s and 50s, even when you look at the baseball, the Big C World Series tonight, if you can realize the last time the Cubs and the Indians played in the World Series, baseball was segregated, Big C, but Fox Sports has done nothing to talk about the integration of baseball or the Negro Leagues, paying homage to the Negro Leagues. It's almost like business is as usual. I just want to go back to this rating that was done. In fact, it's by, I'll give out the name because a lot of people take our stuff, they don't give us credit, but it's in USA Today, and it talked about TV's diversity report card and how we grade the broadcast networks. Now think about this. ABC television, the networks, they received an A- according to this, but they have the first African-American programming chief executive, and he's been a champion of diversity, and his name is Channing Dungey. He's the first African-American programming chief in the history of television. We're in 2016, Big C. Now they have many shows coming out, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder. They have Kerry Washington, Viola Davis, a lot of great actresses out there, Big C. But I just want to bring this point. They're making more money now because their audience is diverse. It's not about color unless you think about the color green. Because the African-American voting bloc is everything that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are stumping for. But we know Donald Trump, he wants to stop and frisk and lock you up. So if you're dumb enough to give me your vote, that's your choice. Because he's already told you he's coming after your kids with the stop and frisk that he and Giuliani knows unconstitutional, Big C. But they got the knucklehead Don King to go down and stump for him in the black church. so he can lock up Don King's kids, Big C.
I want to look at this with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
When he's talking about the Mexicans, the Hispanics coming across the border.
The illegals, as they say. The illegals, yeah.
But in this point, I want to send out my condolences to 2 police officers who were gunned down today.
Yeah.
And it was not a Mexican man, Charlton.
No, it's Caucasian.
It was not. It was anti what Donald Trump said.
Yeah.
And these are 2 police officers that are out to serve and protect our American citizens, Charlton. They were gunned down in their cars about a mile and a half apart by the same insane man. Yeah. Okay? And this is where Donald Trump and the NRA agree with each other. That you have the right to carry these long rifles and commit homicides on police officers, Charlton, who are out there protecting the American public. And it's not about race when it comes with a police officer. Yeah. But over 115 police officers, Charlton, this year, 2016, has lost their lives in the line of duty. We're not talking about those who have been injured, but those who are no longer with us. And it has been done, Charlton, mainly by these Anglo white men of America. Yeah, and we don't hear about this. We've heard about the Black Lives Matter and the African American kids being shot, but we're not hearing about the white police officers or any police officers being shot and who they're being shot by, Charlton. But this latest homicide and atrocity on America's police force, Charlton, once again was done by a white man. I don't hear Donald Trump out there on the campaign trail saying, hey, we gotta lock these white guys up. They're criminals.
Because they're rapists and murderers.
But these are people who are direct threats to the protectors of America.
Well, Big C.
And what's going to happen with this guy? They're going to question him. They're going to lock him up. Yeah. He won't get the death penalty. He'll be in a psychiatric ward, Charlton, the rest of his life.
And see, that's the rhetoric.
These are the separate rules that are laid out, Charlton. These are the separate rules that are laid out for racists. Yeah. They did not kill him. They let him live. And I'm not an opponent of death. Yeah. But they did not kill him. They let him live because they want to study his mind. Yeah. The guy is sick. He does not need to be on the planet. But I want to hear Donald Trump talk about the murderer who murdered these officers in the line of duty, Charles.
And they're always talking about, everybody has a right to the Second Amendment, but he never called white Americans rapists and thugs the way he does to some of my Latin American friends, which I'm very offended by. I'm African American, but wrong is wrong. And when you label a whole group of people as murderers, rapists, and thugs, and you're trying to run for the presidency of the United States, and there are people that go to his rally and go, yeah, let's make America great again. Like, you think about this that I'm going to say right here, Big C. When you look about Donald Trump and Bill Cosby, they both have been accused of a heinous crime. It's called sexual assault. Bill Cosby is facing trial. He's facing prosecution for sexual assault allegations. Donald Trump has said with his own mouth that he grabs women by the genitals. He said a more vulgar word, and he's running as the representative of the Republican Party. And this is a sports show, and it's going to bring people together more than anything else because he's also on several sports teams, Big C. He's also had one of the largest racial discrimination lawsuits against him for discrimination in housing. And here's this guy that wants to become the commander-in-chief of the United States of America. The only difference between Trump and Cosby, different color.
Let me object.
Yeah.
The time that Donald Trump is talking about in America, that was allowed by white males to do these things, to assault people, to commit sexual assault. And you had a trial by your peers. So if you're sitting in there with 12 white men on a jury, and you've committed sexual assault, they weren't going to convict you.
Well, that's why he said he could get away with it. Yeah, he said that.
They're going to let you get away with it. They said, well, there wasn't enough evidence. We don't know if she enticed him.
Yeah.
No means no when a woman says that, Charlton. And even when a male says that, it means no. Look at the guy, Jerry Sandusky.
Yeah.
Who was in Penn State. You're going to tell me that all those little boys agreed with him? They were fearful of this grown man in that situation that their parents had put him in, and they did not know how to tell through embarrassment and threats.
And
so no means no, regardless of the race or
the gender of the person.
It's a violent crime. And Donald Trump is the advocate of violent crimes in America.
And when you don't stand up to it, then it's going to grow like a wildfire. You got to put out the fire. I don't care who you vote for, Democrat or Republican, but just telling women that anyone can grab your genitalia and brag about it and laugh about it. And one guy is facing prosecution in Bill Cosby, and he's denied for the most part. Now, I wasn't there, but Donald Trump bragged about grabbing women by the genitalia, and he's like, they're stomping for this guy, and there's so many women that are battered every 20 seconds in the United States. I think that's a joke, Big C, but I just want to say this segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to protecting American families, and we work under the AFL-CIO. We can work with all the unions in the country, and we are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We're looking to hire over 1,000 life insurance brokers to help put people back to work. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeart Radio Network. Also, send me out to Twitter at Yes Charlton. That's Yes Charlton on Twitter, and we'll get that information out for you. Big C, I want to tie this in because sports in Hollywood and the athletic industry is one and the same. And there are people you can reach when they're in a uniform, but you can't reach them when they're in the office, in the corporate office. This thing with Hollywood, back to Hollywood, they gave Fox Television a B+. They have one of the hottest shows to young people. It's called Empire. Taraji P. Henson's on there, as well as Terrence Howard. A lot of African Americans are on there. It's a very diverse program, and it brings in a lot of money from advertisers, because not only does Black Lives Matter, Black dollars matters, white dollars matters, Hispanic American dollars matters, Native American dollars, it all matters. But they understand because of diversity, they're making more money through advertising. CBS got a C-. They don't have anyone headlining the show that's a person of color, Big C. It's all white, like in the 1960s again, like the great Archie Bunker, Big C. So I want to say this to the sports business, and I think this is working because you talked about it for the last year. Now I see USA Today doing a thing on how diversity is good because people spend money on advertising that represents all the hues of America, Big C, the whole diaspora of America, all different colors. If you don't hear it on Charlton and Big C Sports, you're not going to hear it anywhere else because people are afraid to talk about it. I think in the world of sports, and we'll get into some football after this, Big C, we can see all of our brethren, no matter what color you are, whether you're male or female. It brings people together. And I love using this platform on iHeartMedia to talk about inclusion. I'm just going to run down a few numbers. BET Television, which is Black Entertainment, is in 85 million United States households. Would you believe that iHeartMedia reaches 92% of the African Americans? That's like 92% of the African American vote. Which is owned by Oprah Winfrey, the Oprah Winfrey Network. They're in 78.8 million households. Well, the iHeart Media Network reaches 93% of the American households and Hispanics as well. We are bigger than Univision, and we also are bigger than the ESPN, Fox, CNN, all those companies, Big C. And only on iHeart Media can you find Charlton and Big C Sports that will bring you real talk, because we're not sycophants to sports. I just hope that we have a world of inclusion, and I want to make sure that all people get the opportunity for representation. So I congratulate the NFL because it's a diverse league. It's the hottest league in the country, Big C, actually one of the tops in the world, because of inclusion. In all the teams in the top 25 college football poll, the majority of them are led by African-American athletes that are unpaid, and they're owned by white institutions that are getting all the multi-billions of dollars that is generated by this television contracts, Big C, that goes right back into the white coffers. And it is a racial line. And I hope we can bring more people to the table and make sure that we share the wealth among women, men, and all people of color. Your thoughts on that before we get into football, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I want to change one word there. You said inclusion. There's really not inclusion when you look at athletics. We were included, but there's not inclusion. We're not part of the total package, Charlton. When you looked at the integration of African-American athletes into predominant white universities, Charlton, that was only for a financial gain. It wasn't about creating more opportunities for those African-American athletes, because we have predominant African-American universities and even other universities in the western and northern part of the United States that African-Americans went to school at. It was the southern states that allowed African-Americans to come in, and those guys could stay in their home area and made those conferences very strong. But, beyond the inclusion of athletics, Charlton, when we look at these programs, you look at the University of Alabama. Who are the star players on the University of Alabama? The college football top four. They're all at the University of Washington. The guys who were drinking my moonshine. Texas A&M. My strength is straight. You get your butt kicked by Alabama. You hang with them for a half, but you're a better team than the team that's up the team. Well,
that kind of makes me nervous. Are those the same guys that rated Big C Sports #1 in the universe, Big C? I hope we don't have any hanging jazz.
We just played together. They didn't have a pencil at that time.
Okay, just making sure.
But, when you look at those things, Charlton, you look at Alabama, where they're ranked. You look at Clemson, where they're ranked. You look at A&M, where they're ranked. And we have a fourth team that's in there. But, you look at the diversity on those programs, and it's not diversity. You look at the predominance of athletes, Charlton, that are starting in those programs. I look at Clemson. The only thing I don't see black is a uniform. That's true. That's true, Big C. Everybody. They have 4 or 5 Caucasian players starting. And you take Deshaun Watson out of the equation at Clemson, Charlton. What is Clemson? You look at Alabama with their starting quarterback, a true freshman. They had a sophomore that started the season. He transferred after one game when he saw that they were going to let this freshman play, because he knew he would never get a chance to beat out this African-American freshman quarterback again, and he would sit there for the next 3 years watching the game if he stayed at Alabama. You look at Texas A&M. Yes, they have a quarterback that's white, but he transferred in from Oklahoma. Right. But you look at the rest of the roster, Charlton, it's 85% African-American as starters. And so when you're sitting there, even Michigan, you look at the resurgence of what Jim Harbaugh has done in their program. Who are they highlighting as their star player in their program? The real Peppers. African-American players.
But they're not paying them. As long as they're not paying them, of course they get the job, Big C. They don't have to give them any money.
How many jerseys have they sold with Jabril Peppers? How many Deshaun Watson jerseys have been sold at Clemson? When you think about the income that these African-American players generate for these universities, and can't get a hamburger. They cannot get a hamburger without being put on sanctions, Charlton. They say, well, they're getting an education. I wonder the quality of an education for college athletes.
When you're always in practice.
Well, they're getting this free. When you got to practice all the time. When you go for a road game, you're gone 2 to 3 games for a road game. So if you're playing on a Saturday night, Charlton, you're leaving on a Thursday. So how much academia time do you have that week? 3 days. If you play a Thursday or a Friday night game and you're on the road, how many days are you going to think about it, Charlton? If you're a college athlete and they have games on Thursday night and you have to travel, Okay, you got to leave minimum a day before the game, Charlton. So you got a Thursday night game and leave it on Wednesday. You play the game on Thursday.
Yeah.
When do you go back home? Friday?
Yeah.
So there's 3 days without an opportunity for academics, Charlton.
Yeah.
But they said they're student athletes.
Yeah.
And who got paid for you going out there playing the game, Charlton? The university.
Well,
they receive revenue from gate, from television, everything, Charlton. Parking, concessions.
Yeah.
You got nothing. You got a Subway sandwich on the plane. That was it.
Well, you know,
you got a Subway sandwich and a pat on the back.
And it ties back into the world of television, because it's not just the producers who influence the shows, it's the Directors Guild of America, and it estimates that minorities spearheaded about 19% of TV episodes, in 2015 and 16. But I go back to the great Nichelle Nichols. She's the co-star in Lieutenant Uhura. Remember that back in the days of Star Trek with, was it Dan Leonard? Who was it? Who's the great guy? Nimoy and Captain James. Yeah, Captain James T. Kirk, and all those good old boys back in the day. But they put an African American co-star there. I also remember the great, the Jeffersons, the Good Times. They had Sanford and Son. They had, I think, Freddie Prinze was played on Chico and the Man Big C. Also, we had the top-rated, the Cosby Show, NBC's TV, the top-rated Cosby Show. They were top-rated when they were more diverse. And this is what I'm saying to the network broadcasters. As we watch the baseball game tonight, it's not really diverse, but they'll have a couple of reporters, maybe one black American standing around asking questions, Big C. They had added a woman talent, a female talent, so that's good too. But I go back to UCLA. Darnell Hunt, the director of UCLA's Ralph J. Bunche Center of African American Studies, and some of the reasons that a lot of people don't get jobs in television is because the good old boy network still exists. And when we talked about the great college football teams, and we'll talk about a few in the next segment, all the black talent that's making billions of dollars for pejoratively white institutions, the athletes about 90% African American that are going to be in the Final Four. And when you look at the presidents of these universities that are raking in billions of dollars because of TV combined, and millions of dollars when it comes to getting their paycheck, they're doing it on the backs of black talent. I mean, the sports fields are integrated, but when it comes to the people making the decisions and getting paid, it's just as segregated as the 1940s, Big C. How do we fix that at the college level, Big C, let alone the pro level? Your thoughts?
Well, the segregation at the college level, Charlton, comes from the administrators. Who are the presidents of these universities?
Yeah.
That's where it starts at. Who are the deans of these universities? When you look at that level of participation there, that's who are the guys that are in charge of hiring. The board of trustees, Charlton. When you don't allow African Americans to sit in those power positions, you can't expect the trickle-down effect, Charlton, of African Americans being hired in other powerful positions at the university. Whether it's an administrator, whether it's a coach. You have to start at the top, Charlton, and there should be forced diversity in America when it comes to that. When these schools, these universities, are receiving grant aid and funds from the United States government, the United States government, when they receive taxes from its citizens, it does a state on that tax, on that green dollar. If it's black or white, it's green. Okay, so if you're going to receive funds from the government as endowments to your university, you should be forced to have a diversity program as far as hiring. And you have to meet these quotas. And the people will say, well, white people are going to lose their job because you got these quotas. No, they're not. It's opposite. You're forced, Charlton, but you're forced to have these quotas because you're not going to hire the minorities regardless. And see, for people who don't have these quotas set in place, then you will not hire the minorities regardless of their qualifications. And I challenge anyone who has that point, Big C, to look at the Ivy League coaches that have about 98% Caucasian athletes. Find one coach that makes a multi-million-dollar contract the way the top 25 coaches do, that do it on about 80% black talent. Just find me one that makes more money than Harbaugh or Saban or any of these top-paid college coaches. They don't exist. All the Ivy League coaches together don't make the money that Harbaugh or Saban makes. Okay? You put all their salaries together, they don't make it because they don't have the predominant black athletes to bring in the television revenue to make their programs exciting, so they pay them minuscule money, Charlton. That's the reality of it. Nick Saban was not at Alabama, and he was at a less productive program, winning-wise, Charlton, showcase-wise. He would not make that money. If you took him out to the West Coast, you just said they got rid of the coach with DeRuyter at Fresno State. Put Nick Saban at Fresno State. Are they going to pay him $7 million? No. Are they going to pay him $2 million? No. They're not.
Right.
He's going to max out at $1 million out there, Charlton, but he's still Nick Saban. But will he be able to produce 103,000 people at a home game? No, because you don't have stadiums for that size on the West Coast.
Yeah, and
they were drawing those people at Alabama prior to Nick Saban. But when winning, they gave him money because these African-American athletes were helping him win national championships.
And I want to say that this segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports at YesCharlton at Twitter, and we're also on the iHeart Radio Network, looking to hire over 1,000 life insurance brokers to help put people back to work. We don't want to build walls like Donald Trump to keep you out. We want to tear down the walls and bring you in, Big C. But I also want to touch on one more thing on how sports and entertainment in Hollywood is all the same. It's about the dollar. It's about the money. There's some great actors in Hollywood, and we all know the Brad Pitts and the Tom Cruises, but Kevin Hart, Boris Kodjoe, Morris Chestnut, these guys, Denzel Washington, they're all very good actors, and I'm telling you, there are people like Kerry Washington, Viola Davis, and there's a lot of good actors and actresses out there, Big C. But if you don't include them in the roles, even in the production of it, I mean, there's a show called Blackish on TV that has a lot of a high rating. Big C. Empire is a very high rated show for Fox. But kind of the embarrassment thing for NBC and CBS, like CBS, NBC has no series that embraces minority themes and none with a sole minority lead. I mean, no African American or Asian or Latino American as a lead on NBC television. And they used to have the highest rated show in television when they had the Cosby Show, which was very diverse, Big C. Why don't the executives see that? And their white executives, they make more money when they have diverse programming than when they try to have this eugenics or this homogenous TV role. You would think they would see that, and I hate to see that the sports role is going the same way. Watch all the sports programming tonight when you watch the World Series. There's hardly any diversity in the broadcast booth. You might see one or two, but there's not a lot of diversity. They're actually losing money because they're missing that extra audience that would come on and buy the advertisers that are dumb enough to give you money when you have homogenous television cast. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, you have to look no further in diversity and how minority dollars matter. To go back to the Montgomery, the bus boycott by Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And when blacks would not ride the bus, all of a sudden whites thought they didn't matter.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when it was a financial impact on a city, they were willing to listen to black talk.
Yeah.
Because they saw that they had lost 70% of their bus riders, and that bus system depended on that African American dollar.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't enough white dollars to support the system. And so now you have whites losing jobs, being laid off because blacks refuse to ride the bus and follow alternative forms of transportation.
Yeah.
You got to look at that even in sports. You know, years ago, Alabama had won a national championship under a quarterback. Well, they came in second under a quarterback named A.J. McCarron. They had lost to Auburn that year under a quarterback named Cam Newton. Alabama had this quarterback named A.J. McCarron, who said he was more NFL ready as a quarterback than Cam Newton was.
Yeah.
A.J. McCarron now talks about Cam Newton's games. Cam Newton's still playing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He was the number one overall draft. A.J. McCarron was the seventh round draft.
That's funny. That's funny, Big C.
Not McCarron, but McElroy.
Yeah, McElroy.
McElroy was the quarterback.
Yeah.
He was the seventh round draft pick, but he was more NFL ready. And that's what he believed, that he was a better quarterback than this guy who's been the NFL MVP. And that's, when you're talking about decision making, now if it wasn't about athleticism, he may have been a better person.
Yeah.
You know, as far as corporate America considered him. And think about it. We talk about diversity in the broadcast booth.
Yeah.
Look how many other quarterbacks have been in the SEC during that time. But where's McElroy? He's working on the SEC network, Charlton.
Yeah.
He went to the broadcast booth because he told people he was better. Is he any better than anybody else that played quarterback as a broadcaster?
No.
No, he isn't, Charlton. But this is when we talk about the lack of diversity in the broadcast booth. Because he won some games at Alabama, surrounded by guys who are going to play in the NFL a long time, mainly Julio Jones, was his number one receiver, who has set NFL record this couple of weeks ago with 300 yards reception in a game. Julio Jones didn't come out and say, I'm the best paid receiver for the NFL.
Yeah,
but he's still playing in the game.
That's true.
He had to rely on his talents, Charlton, as an athlete. They didn't look at him as a person. They looked at him as a talent as an athlete. And I look at it from this perspective also, Charlton. When a black athlete calls it quits early, when he says, look, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
Because I've sacrificed enough of my body physically that I don't want to give you anymore. Yes, I've earned a great living and I've saved my money, but I'm retiring after 5 years, 7 years, 9 years.
Yeah.
It started with the great Jim Brown. People are like, why is he quitting? Well, he can't lead a game. He owes us.
Yeah.
What did Jim Brown owe anybody, Charlton? He played 9 years, gained all the yards you could possibly gain.
Yeah.
Never got hurt. Played under racism, not racial diversity, under racism when he played, even from some of his own teammates, Charlton. But when he retired because he had an opportunity economically
to make money,
to better his lifestyle.
Yeah, to go make some money.
People couldn't understand that he could go make a movie, one movie, and make more money than he would make in an entire football season, Charlton, and not get beat up. So when African Americans seek out opportunity as far as equality, and that was the equality in Hollywood that Jim Brown was seeking out. Yeah. But when you try to seek it out in the broadcast booth, there are continuous roadblocks, Charlton.
Well, Big C, speaking of roadblocks, this segment is also sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org and also CYNN Entertainment when it comes to promotion. Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. Big C, what I love about Big C Sports, the #1 rated show in the universe, is I love the fact that you're never going to hear anyone talk about inclusion, which is so American. And since the Emancipation Proclamation was passed, we understand that everybody, I mean, every person, every ethnic group, male or female, they deserve to have a chance at inclusion in the workforce, Big C. And I'm asking my white brethren and even our women brethren in media, we're fighting for women to fight this age discrimination. When a woman turns 45 or 50, you don't see her on TV, but you see guys like Vern Lindquist or even, Brent Musburger, and I'm not knocking them, they have great talent, but their looks are not held against them the way it is for women. And when it comes to people of color that make up about 90% of the athletic field, especially in football, but when it gets to the broadcast booth, very rarely do we get the chance to broadcast in the broadcast booth, Big C. It's always a sparkling of us. And when it comes to the NFL, there's a little bit more diversity there. But we know that ownership is all pro-Caucasian. But even for the good old boys, the GMs that believe in exclusion, if they look at the numbers, they make more money by integrating Black American athletes into the sports teams than they ever made in the history of sports, Big C. They'll do the same thing for television. Everyone should pick up today's copy of USA Today. I will give them credit for that, because if we don't talk about it, it's never going to change. I think this world is great when we all have inclusion. So as you watch the World Series tonight, you got to pay attention to what's happening behind the scenes. It's not just the guys playing the game, Big C. It's everybody involved. And as we touch on just a little bit of the NFL, I love watching the games. In the AFC East, we have the New England Patriots. They're 7-1. Buffalo is 4-4. Miami's 3-4, followed by the Jets at 3-5. Your thoughts on what it takes for New England to finish out in the tops of that division, Big C? Go right ahead, sir.
All they got to do is block for Tom Brady, Charlton. This is a team that's on fire offensively. You got Garrett Blunt, who is just running the ball tremendously right now, and the offensive line is doing a great job. And when you look at the offensive line, Charlton, really there's only one guy that's known. That's Nate Schroeder.
Yeah.
He's the only guy who was really drafted #1 out of Colorado about 7 years ago, but left offensive tackle. Everybody else is free agents. So when you talk about, and we've heard this with Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
We've heard this with a few other quarterbacks. So when they haven't built an offensive line from him,
he's not so lucky.
Put in a call. Maybe they should put in a call to Bill Belichick. Bring in players that fit what your program does. Okay? When you look at New England's offensive linemen, tell me two of the guys other than Nate Schroeder. You don't, Charlton. You don't know who they are. But they do a job. Tom Brady's completing 76% of his passes. Andrew Luck's about 10% lower than that, if not lower than that. But, he has guys that were drafted in front of him on the offensive line. Look at Jay Cutler. He has #1 draft picks on his offensive line. So when they say that a quarterback is only good as his offensive line, so that means Brady's crap with all these free agents in front of him.
He's very good.
Okay? But when we look at the defense, they got rid of Jamie Collins, one of their stars on defense. But, Bill Belichick has done that since he's been there in New England. He's gotten rid of 7 starters. That people say, how can he get rid of these guys? Well, they're in their free agent year coming up. They're demanding money. They got great cohesiveness as far as guys that they move in and out of systems. That don't play every snap. But this is a team about winning. And we talked about this with Belichick a long time ago when we talked about Randy Moss. How he was with that team, and he brought him in because he fit what the team was doing. And Randy Moss program.
Yeah.
Other players they've tried that with Albert Haynesworth did not work. But, you know, it was just a chance, and if it didn't work, you get rid of it. Guys that go to New England understand they want to win. Look at Blunt. How many stops did he make prior to getting to New England?
Quite a few, Big C. He's a journeyman, Big C, but he gets into a system that helps win, and also getting into systems. We talk about, you know, Brady in the AFC East. I just want to run over to the NFC real quick because I think the top team in the NFC right now, until Jerry Jones screws it up, it happens to be the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm not partial to either team, but I like what they're doing. They're 6-1 on the season, being led by Dak Prescott. They're followed by the Giants in Philadelphia that are both 4-3, and then Washington at 4-3. But I think what makes Dallas a winning organization right now? Can you put your finger on it? I know it's because of Prescott, it's because of their offensive line, Ezekiel Elliott, but I think they're winning without the help of Jerry Jones. He's trying to divide them by saying when they get the broken up, you know, the erstwhile great quarterback Tony Romo, they want to bring him back. I think that's going to create a fracture in the Dallas Cowboys. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think what has made the Dallas Cowboys a winning team this year, Charlton, is that you have the outside media talking about, well, they got the same offensive coordinator that they had last year. And Tony Romo, he called the same plays this year for Tony Romo that he's calling Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
But Charlton, take it back another year. He was calling those same plays a year ago for Tony Romo. Okay, they haven't changed the Dallas offense. This is the same offense that's been in Dallas for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So Tony Romo is operating under that same offensive coordinator calling the same plays. The only difference in Dallas this year, Charlton, is twofold.
Yeah.
Call Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Two rookies who are hungry and wanted to play the game. They brought in Derek McFadden last year, former #1 draft pick of Oakland Raiders, out of Arkansas. Jerry Jones, alma mater.
Yeah.
How successful was he? He get hurt just walking on the field. So he couldn't take a shot.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay? You know, Dak Prescott has shown resilience. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
You know, he has made the plays. He's proven that he can bring a team from behind in overtime and win a game, Charlton.
Yeah.
Ezekiel Elliott leading the NFL in rushing just like DeMarco Murray did when he was there in Dallas.
Yeah.
This is a team that's built to win.
Well,
they got a quarterback now that's a winner. He won in college, Charlton, and he's winning on the pro level. And people want to screw that up because he's not one of the good old boys. He doesn't look like us.
Yeah.
He's the most successful African-American quarterback in Dallas Cowboy history.
They've
had Collins, they've had Carter, and they've had Wright.
Yeah.
Neither one of these quarterbacks has achieved the success level of Dak Prescott. And when you talk about good old boy neighborhoods, it's hard to change. But sometimes you got to change if you want to win and move into the future, Charlton.
And speaking of winning, we talk about it on Big C Sports because we're real talk. I just ask everyone, even if you're a segregationist, and if you believe in money more than skin color, you know, look at how inclusion helps everybody from television, where there's Chris Rock with, you know, the Oscars boycotts, and a lot of people stayed away. Now they have a record number of people being nominated because some people are asleep, and they don't mean to be, you know, segregationists. They just don't know any better because they don't have a diverse environment, Big C. Sometimes we got to bring it up. We got to let people know that all of America matters, Big C. I just want to bring this up too. And when we look at college football, I don't want to ignore the Division II college football when it comes to rankings. We have Sam Houston State, they're #1 in the country at 8-0, followed by Jacksonville State, #2 at 7-1. Eastern Washington, they're 7-1. They're #3, followed by North Dakota State. That's Carson Wentz's great university, and by James Madison rounding out the top 5. But also when you look at the AP Women's Top 25, it always depends on who you ask, but they have Notre Dame ranked #1, followed by Baylor, UConn, and South Carolina, as well as Louisville when it comes to the women. And they got Maryland, Ohio State, Texas, UCLA, and Mississippi State rounding out the top 10 when it comes to that. But I want to touch on one more thing before we close, because we do know we have the Big C World Series. We love NFL football. We love college football. We love it all. We have hockey, NBA. I thought that was atrocious what happened to the Kings last night down in Florida with DeMarcus Cousins, you know, being fouled out. Tonight's NBA roster, even though everybody's going to be watching the World Series, the Big C World Series, we have Washington. They're favored by 1 over Toronto. Charlotte's favored by 12 over Philadelphia. New York's favored by 1 over Houston. Is Atlanta by 11.5 over the Lakers. Detroit by 4 over Brooklyn. Memphis is favored by 5.5 in their ball game coming up tonight over New Orleans. Boston is a 3-point favorite over Chicago. Utah's favored by 4 over Dallas. Portland by 3 over Phoenix. And the LA Clippers by 7 over OKC, Big C. But I want to close out this program and talking about the diversity that has helped make these sports leagues a $1 billion industry. I mean, billion. It's only been since the inclusion of the African American athlete. It does not hurt white Americans when they include more people and more groups, whether it's Asians or Hispanics, or it doesn't matter. And diversity brings in more money. Why? Because the advertising company, like whether it's Cadillac, when they realize they reach out to more ethnic groups that have money, they will actually buy your products. And when they see people on TV that represent the hue that makes America diverse, they actually will bring people from those same communities to buy your product. That's about green, not about black and white. It's about green. So I do applaud some of the networks, even though they're slow in doing it, Big C. I congratulate them for trying to put minorities as leaders in movies. It doesn't always have to be the great Denzel Washington. It doesn't have to always be the great Halle Berry. It could be someone like a Selma Hayek. It could be someone like anyone, Charlize Theron. It doesn't matter. They're all different colors group, Big C. I just want to get you to close out and saying what you think, again, is the key for getting corporate America to think the same way the NFL and the NBA, and even to some extent baseball when it comes to inclusion. Even though I wish that Fox would acknowledge the Negro League tonight, I don't think they're going to do it. But the clue for inclusion makes money, Big C. What's taking them so long to realize what you've been talking about for 40 years, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I think all of those leagues still miss the boat when it comes to inclusion. If you look at the World Series games, and we're in Game 7 tonight,
yeah,
you look at the umpire crew. There's not one African American. And so you're going to tell me of the entire Major League Baseball that an African American is not qualified to call a World Series game, and there's several African American Major League umps.
Yeah.
You look at the NFL Super Bowl last year, Charlton. Not one African American official in the game. You're going to tell me of the group of African American diversity officials in the NFL that none of them had enough quality of work to qualify for the Super Bowl to officiate the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
We look at the NBA championship last year, Charlton. A league that's dominated by African Americans, none like any other. Not one African American official, Charlton, in the NBA championship. So when we look at these things, Charlton, and we don't have the diversity representation on television,
yeah,
how can you have it elsewhere? That is the largest exposure of America to African Americans.
Yeah.
To see that African Americans are normal people, Charlton, that they work. They're diverse like everybody else. They have homes, they have families, they have jobs, they're employed. They're law-abiding citizens. But if you don't give that representation on television, and you only give a representation of an athlete, that they can only be an athlete, and when they're an athlete, they're a so-called decent person.
Yeah.
But it's well beyond athletics, Charlton. Athlete is a great humanizer and bonder and galvanizer of America.
Yeah.
But you also have to be diverse in every aspect of it, not just the players, but in the officials and in the coaches, Charlton. There's not enough diversity on that side, and that's part of corporate America, okay?
Yeah.
When we look at the officials and we look at the coaches, that's corporate America, because these athletes, that's what they do. The other guys are controlling the athletes, and that's where we don't have enough diversity, Charlton,
yeah,
in the people that are controlling the athletes, whether it's an official, whether it's a head coach, whether it's a coordinator. There has to be more diversity there, and America's corporate headquarters has to equalize with that also, Charlton.
Well, we know a lot of these companies come out of the East Coast in New York, Big C, and you know they talk about college football, and I just want to run down how they came out with the rankings. They have number 1 Alabama, number 2 Clemson, number 3 Michigan, number 4 Texas A&M, number 5 Washington, and they have Ohio State at number 6. They have Louisville 7, Wisconsin 8, Auburn number 9, and followed out by Nebraska at number 10. And I challenge anyone to say that if you get rid of all the African American athletes on those football teams, would any of them remain in the top 10 or even the top 50 when it comes to college football? I dare not, Big C. And television is the same. It's the absolute same. When you watch network TV, if we could see a more diaspora approach to television by including everybody, I don't care if you call it affirmative action or whatever you call it. I call it inclusion. I call it inclusion, Big C.
I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
When you name the ranking, and number 1 was who? Alabama?
Alabama.
Number 2 was who? Clemson?
Clemson.
What do their starting backfields consist of? Black running backs, black quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. It's the same. It's the same thing.
You have the leadership quality that make you millions of dollars as a university and a sports organization.
Yeah.
But you don't have the ability of those organizations to hire a black head coach or even a black offensive coordinator. Because the offensive coordinator at Clemson,
yeah,
he's not black. Offensive coordinator at Alabama, he's not black, Charlton.
Well, see, Big C, on Fox Television, they have Empire. They have one of the highest ratings of that whole network. It's a black cast. Fox Sports, on the other hand, well, they spend most of their time broadcasting African-American athletes. You rarely see any lead broadcasters on Fox. They may have an analyst or two here and there, but for the most part, they make 90% of their money off of broadcasting black athletes. But if you're a black athlete, you have about a 10% chance of getting an on-air job with Fox Sports. And that's a shame, Big C, because I love the broadcast media, but I want to call attention to that. If you're looking around in your boardrooms and you don't have any representation of people of color, if you're 99% white and you're deciding what diversity is, you have one black person or one woman or one Hispanic, that's not diversity. I think inclusion and money talks. That's why Charlton and Big C Sports is rated the #1 show in the universe. And I do believe that because we cover everybody. Big C, in the last few minutes on the Big C World Series tonight, you know, I love what's happening in the city of Cleveland. I love what's happening in Chicago. Baseball is a sporting business that's bringing people together. It's a diverse business, and I think everybody rallies around it. We rally around competition. We rally around inclusion. Let's get the same thing to happen at the corporate television and corporate radio. Don't just have an all-white, good old boy network. Open the doors for all people. Open the doors for inclusion and diversity in America. Big C, your thoughts on the Big C World Series, Game 7, Big C, in the city of Cleveland. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, you know, it's going to be very imperative to a team to get off early tonight, Charlton. Just as we saw last night in Cleveland, where Chicago got up early in the first couple of innings and were able to ride it out and dominate the game. I think that's the same thing that we're looking at tonight. You know, if Chicago can get up early because they're going to be the leadoff hitters in this game, they have a great chance of winning their first World Series, Charlton, in 108 years.
Yeah, 108 years.
And that would be great for baseball to have a team that's gone a century without winning a championship, and it's been a heritage program in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, you think about it, they have a few African-Americans on the team, and the last time they were in a World Series, they had none.
None.
So when we talk about diversity and the rise of the African-Americans in athletics, you give some praise to that. But the last time the Chicago Cubs were in the World Series, they had no African-American representation.
Yeah.
But the Cleveland Browns in 48, the last time they won, they had two.
Yeah.
They had Larry Doby and Santo Pace. They had a pitcher and a catcher that helped them win the World Series. So sports has advanced. It is galvanized. And this was pre-segregation when these things happened, Charlton. And since desegregation, African Americans have really benefited white society from the athletic perspective. Yeah. They have made them millions and billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars.
So we need that diversity. We need that diversity to come back to allow some of those African Americans to be on the delivery side of some of this programming, Charlton, as far as broadcasters, getting that other perspective from that other culture. Yeah. And it exists, Charlton. There's an intelligence level that's out there that if it was allowed to be exposed, you would see and have a greater respect for diversity in America. But that's what has happened throughout television, throughout radio, is that we don't have enough diversity, so you don't get an opportunity to respect other cultures because it's led by one culture, Charlton. And once we get that diversity of appearance and delivery in America, we will have a much better society, Charlton.
And speaking of that, tonight I want to congratulate Carrie Underwood. She's going to be up for a lot of awards at the CMA Awards tonight, Big C. We have the Big C World Series. We have everything going on. I love talking real sports on Charlton and Big C Sports. We want to keep it real every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on the iHeart Radio Network, the #1 media network in the United States. And I always say this. There's no excuse for domestic violence. No woman should have to put up with that garbage. If you know any woman going through domestic violence or having some man grabbing her by the crotch, that's called assault. It's called sexual assault. Just call 911. Doesn't matter who you are. You shouldn't get away with that. And I always want to say, no matter who you are, we're welcome to listen to Charlton and Big C Sports every Monday to Friday on the iHeart Radio Network, the #1 media company in the United States of America. And as we always tell you, we thank you. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day. Congratulations, Chicago or Cleveland in the Big C World Series.